And what's up, guys? Welcome to the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. It's your boy, Sean Grant. And it's our first show of 2020. So glad to have you guys with us. And not as always, but we got a special, my guy, Alex Khan is in the building instead of
Yeah.
Paulie. How you doing, Alex?
Good, man. How you been?
Pretty good, man. 2020's all right?
Yeah, it's kicking off to a good start.
I love it, man. And it certainly is, man, because I got some amazing people in here, man. Two people, I love them dearly, even though relationships are pretty new, like relatively new, but like they're just good people, even by Canadian standards. They're both Canadian. But let me bring them in, man. This first young lady, man, she's performed at the JFL 42 Festival, the She Dot Festival, the Guelph Comedy Festival, and Toronto's Dark Comedy Festival. She's been featured in Canadian Living Magazine and the Charlevoix Post and Blog TO, and can also be heard on Sirius XM Radio. My girl Dena Jackson. Yeah. We need more 2020, we need some sound effects, man. Hurt my hands over here because you deserve that hard clap. And this next guy right here, sitting next to her, he's a former radio personality on CNFY FM radio in Canada, and he's the current CEO of Comedy Records based in Canada. His platform has featured comics like K. Trevor Wilson, Christina Walkinshaw, DJ Demers, Forrest Shaw, and two of the people in this room, Dena Jackson and I. Give it up for Barry Taylor.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, guys?
What's up?
Yeah, man, thank you. And this is kind of special because you guys are just visiting. You're in LA. Of course, you don't live here. A lot of the guys have moved here already. But how you guys liking it so far? Your visit?
It's good.
We really like it.
Yeah,
It's beautiful, but it's big. I don't
Big?
think we're not quite used to, like, when we first got to the airport, I wasn't used to the whole area that you guys have for Uber. Like, it's a whole section. We don't have that in Toronto.
You know, that's pretty new, actually. The LA
yeah?
exit or something? Like,
Yeah.
like now, because before it was just like the Wild West. But have you guys both been before? Or is this your...
It's been well over a decade for me.
Oh.
I was here a year or two ago.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
this time is not so much about, have you guys sightseen or done any of that stuff? Or?
Yeah, we went to
Been into
Universal
that.
Studios yesterday.
Yeah, that was
We did a
fun.
little bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Getting a little bit of it in, man. But
It can't be all work. If it's
Right.
all work, then you have nothing to talk about on stage.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the city. And how is the comedy scene in comparison to Toronto? You started in Toronto, is that right, Dena?
Yeah, I started there.
Yeah.
It's great. Again, it's so much bigger. Like we were talking, I think you have more people in the state of California alone than we have in all of Canada.
Oh, word.
In the whole country.
Oh, my
so,
gosh.
So yeah, it's definitely bigger, but having some
Yeah.
fun. I was performing on your friend's show. On
Yeah. Oh, you killed
on
it.
Sunday.
On
Think
Sunday
that was
night,
fun.
the comedy joint, man. Yeah, smash it. If you guys don't know, the comedy joint is at the Haha Comedy Club. They do like jazz and comedy throughout the show. So
And they're really good. Like Asia Ray, she's an amazing singer. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that she was singing people on and off stage. I
Oh,
thought they
yeah.
paired that nicely. It's a
Yeah.
really nice show.
it was dope, man. It was dope. And Barry, you come back and forth. How would you say the scene here is in comparison to Toronto's scene?
I mean, obviously it's great. I think the way I sort of see it is Toronto's just kind of like a miniature New York. You know?
Ah.
So it's like very similar as you can do many shows in one night and hop around the city on the subway and that. Whereas here it feels like you got to drive
Yeah.
quite a bit to
Yeah.
go show
Oh,
to show kind of thing.
I'm telling you, yeah. Like guys, there's public transit. Is it possible to do public transportation here?
If you want to hit one show, I think, like
That'll be it.
yeah. You don't
Yeah.
want to like try to take the metro out to Santa Monica and then get to Hollywood in the same night.
Oh,
you know,
no,
like that sound, but I think with Uber, if you're in Hollywood, it's doable,
Yeah, at least one or two. All right.
You need a car for sure. But people were staring at me when I was walking to the mall today. Like no one else was doing the walk. I was the only one walking.
Was it? How far was the walk? You say like
That's
over
maybe
a mile.
like 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Is that far here?
Well, it depends on how fast you are, but I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
I think it if you're doing the big three in Hollywood, you can
Yeah.
Uber. Like a lot of those people are hitting spots at the three clubs, and that's
Oh, yeah.
those are 5-minute Uber rides. That's easy, But it's garage, backyard shows, or if you're going to Lyric or the alt rooms or
I
something.
was gonna say, but if you're doing the big three, you should have a car.
yeah,
If you're doing the Comedy Store, the Improv, and the Laugh Factory in one one night. That's what you mean by the big three.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
but
then you got a car,
I
man.
think a
You're-
lot of those guys don't though.
Dane Cook doesn't have a car.
Well, Dane Cook does.
I was
but
gonna say, I'm doing better than Dane Cook.
I mean, these days.
Oh, come on, no. That's not what this show's about. Damn it. I'm
Dan
not
Cook probably
sta-
has a driver, no?
Oh
Wouldn't he have
yeah,
a
I'm
driver?
sure. Yeah, all those guys, because yeah, if you're doing all three of those clothes, you're booked in them.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
he's pulling up in a brand new Lamborghini everywhere
Yeah.
he goes. That's how Dane rolls. Yeah.
He's rolling, man.
Stand humble. That's nice.
All right, man. Well, let me ask you guys. We usually start with this question, and I want to. Last year, I would ask, and I wouldn't specify to stay away from stand-ups because I kind of got another question later in the show, or like really at the end, that pertains to that. But who would you say? I'll start with you, Dena. Who are your first three major comedic influences? Not comedians, but like maybe family members, TV characters, books, or characters from books. Like, what would you say were like they made you laugh?
My dad, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a real character, a real odd fella.
Yeah.
Really liked. You remember that song "Sandstorm" but by Darude? Do you remember that song?
Oh, no.
Da 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 da.
Oh, yeah.
That was like his
Yeah.
theme song. He would just blare that.
He was just like
so-
turned up.
Yeah, all the time. So to him, I love Lucille Ball. She was someone
Yeah.
I loved watching on TV growing
Right.
up. I have to think about the third one.
Was
Like
your dad, he knew he was funny? Or was he?
Yeah, but he was. I think
Okay.
of him now like he was like a comic, but just never had a stage. So he was
Right.
always like doing weird shit all the time, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like I always saw someone performing ever since I was little, but just for me and my mom and my sisters. So him for sure.
All right, cool. Pops and Lucille Ball. What about you, Barry? Did you have anybody growing up that you? made
I'd
you
like
laugh?
friends, you know, like
Yeah.
buddies. Like that was the thing I would say when getting into stand up that really blew my or I don't know, whatever, was just surprising to me was how many
Yeah.
people their background were like theater or
Right.
you know, like but to me in school the funniest people were just like idiots that had
Yeah.
nothing, you know, like
Yeah.
like weren't good enough at sports, didn't you know, but they were just funny. Right?
Yeah.
So I had some friends growing up that I definitely
Did any of them get
shade
into it? No.
no, they didn't. They're like
Just
working for the
dudes.
city now. You know?
Right.
Like, they're just still the same idiots or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the circle of friends I had growing up
Yeah.
really pushed me, or just sort of inspired or made me just.
Yeah.
I mean, what's better than joking around and laughing, right?
Right.
That's the best.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And when you started in radio, like, how, did you go to school for journalism, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I went to a college in my home city for radio, and then I got to sort of like this crossroads where a friend and I were gonna move to Mexico because my sister was living there at the time.
Yeah.
we were gonna move down there to work, or I was gonna get a job in radio. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to the biggest station in the country and try and get an internship, and if I don't, we'll go to Mexico.
Oh, damn.
And then I got in, and then I got a job, and it just snowballed. So
nice.
yeah, that was kind of how that happened.
So you could have been in Mexico right now.
I could have been. I'd
yeah.
still, you know, running around the beach. Yeah.
Oh man, oh dude. So,
Yeah.
and you were on air personality to start, or
No,
like when you
so
interned?
I interned in the like creative production department, like
Yeah.
doing the behind the scenes stuff, and then eventually, just by luck, got on overnights, and then a bunch of people got fired at once, so that they just pushed everyone up, and then I got into evenings and like weekend afternoons.
Oh snap!
Yeah,
man,
yeah, it
that's
was all right.
dope.
It was all right.
Heck yeah.
That was when radio still mattered. I don't know. I mean, barely mattered. You know. Like,
right.
I don't even like it. The industry is so.
It's so like is it saturated, spread out?
Saturated.
Yeah.
Well, on the
there's
well, I mean,
podcasts and-
there's podcasts, there's streaming, there's just like I mean, it used to be a multi-million-dollar industry. Now it's
Right.
you know just a couple people still working in it.
Right. Damn,
You
that's so
count them on
true,
your
man.
hand.
Yeah,
That's so true.
it's interesting.
Dang. And Dena, when you started in stand up, like, how long ago was that? Is that over
About
10?
6.5 years.
6.5?
Mhm.
What got you in? Were you a theater person?
Yeah. I was
See
was
what I
a-
mean? Isn't that messed up?
there's so many theater people. I started theater pretty young. I started doing
Yeah.
some acting and stuff when I was younger.
Right.
And then I did children's theater for a long time. I lived in Italy for a few years doing children's theater.
Oh, dope.
And then I came back and got into improv and sketch, and then later got into stand up. So it's
Ooh.
stand up straight for the last 6.5.
And children, like what in Italy? I'm sorry. I'm trying to. I didn't have a question for that. I'm like, wait a minute. No, you did. Children's theater. What describe that? Like, what's a gig like?
Yeah, gig. I
In
felt
it-
like a carny. That's how I would
Oh,
describe
okay.
it.
Oh.
You had like you'd perform in schools. You would perform
Oh.
in like spaces for young kids and stuff like that.
Oh,
and
dope. Were
Yeah.
you speaking Italian or?
yeah.
Oh, word.
Yeah.
How many languages do you speak?
Just English and Italian.
Oh, sick. Oh.
Italian's not really helpful outside of Italy, but it sounds real nice.
Oh my gosh, man. Were the people like they're cool, like Italians?
Yeah, they're really cool. I love the food and the culture. I love the people. Everybody speaks with their hands. I like that. A lot of comedians
Yeah.
out there, they just don't know it.
Yeah.
And that's where the Commedia dell'arte came from. So
Right.
a lot of, like, just very, very passionate people. So I
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, I lived in the South for quite a while in Sicily, and it was really hard to explain stand up to them. Like even when I would go back, and once I started doing this full time,
Yeah.
they didn't know what it was, but it's more understood in the North.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of Italian. They're all Italian American comedians, but I
Mhm.
can't even think of like just straight up Italian comedians.
Yeah, most of them are second generation
Right.
that have lived here, and maybe their parents immigrated
Yeah.
over, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you started in Toronto, and so like, what was your first? You just got up to the Yuck Yucks, or where did you go, like, to
No,
start off?
I took I did training at the Second City.
Right.
I did their improv there, and then I took stand up at the Second City as well.
Oh no.
I got out of I enjoyed improv and sketch, and I still do, but then I
Yeah.
always had an interest in stand up, and
Yeah.
then once I started it, you catch the bug, right? And then,
Right.
I don't know, you get all of the laughs or none of the laughs
Right.
if you're up alone, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, man. Yeah, and Barry, you did stand up for a bit?
Yeah, it was about 10 years or so, and then so I was doing stand up, and then in Canada you can't just do stand up, like you need something else. So it's
Right.
like you need to act, or you need to be a writer, or so my thing was I was like I don't want to act. I was like, I'm gonna start this record label, and that's gonna be my side job, right? And then,
Yeah.
but then that's sort of been progressing well and occupying the majority of my
It's
time.
progressing very well. He's
Yeah.
being modest.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I was like, listen, I can keep doing both of them well, or I can like really try and do one and really kill it. And I
Yeah.
mean I just think doing the business side of things is a little more realistic to succeed than
Yeah.
stand up, because I mean, as we know, it's an insane grind, and
All
there's
right,
so
all
many
right.
factors, and it's
Yeah.
so yeah, I still do, like every once in a while I'll go up, but I don't have any motivation to go on the road anymore.
Right.
Because man, once you take, I mean, you know, like what you're grinding it out for so long, and then if you
Right.
take a month off, like it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Like
just
having
to
your
chill.
nights free, it's a whole new world. It is a
Yeah.
whole new world. Not having to go out every single night,
Absolutely.
it's different. So
And you've organized other things through comedy, right? Like you guys, is it a basketball league? I know when I went to
Yeah.
JFL, you guys had it's like a celebrity tournament or a game.
charity game, yeah.
Like charity game.
So yeah, we did a charity game. That started. We did one at JFL 42 in Toronto. We did a 3-on-3 tournament with
Okay.
comedians, and then last year we did a charity game at JFL in Montreal, and then we just did one at New York Comedy Festival too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was fun. So yeah, we've started doing that stuff, and yeah, we definitely have a basketball aside to the label. So there's
Yeah.
myself and Tim Golden
Yeah.
are managing partners, and we run it, and we have the label side. We have a small roster that we manage, and then we do a lot of basketball related stuff for some reason, just because we
Yeah.
like basketball. and
Who's the
stuff.
best?
I was
Ba-
about to
yeah,
ask
I
that.
wanna
Yeah,
know.
who's the best basketball
Basketball?
playing comedian that you've seen?
Wasn't there one player when we were at New York Comedy Festival who used to be a professional basketball
Yeah, well,
player?
But how much comedian is he? Though?
Okay.
All right, let's
Yeah.
come on.
Well, so Gary Goldman, first of all, is extremely good.
He's
Really?
very good. Yeah,
Gary
he's
Goldman
good.
is very good.
Yeah?
I feel like I've heard that before, actually.
Yeah,
or at
he's-
least that he loves to play. Yeah.
He's very good. Andrew Schultz.
I was gonna
Oh,
say, man, he was
Very good.
balling
I
at
bet.
that
Very good.
thing, at that
Yeah,
at
the Montreal
the
one.
Montreal one. Oh
Killed
my
it.
goodness, yeah.
The Rafi.
He's
Bastos from
Yeah,
Brazil.
Yeah, he played.
Oh yeah, he played
I
like
want to say. I
international.
think it was in the Brazilian league.
Mhm.
I think so. He played
Yeah. He's
He's
professionally.
tall too.
He's a big
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
He played in both those games. He takes it very seriously.
Yeah.
He holds nothing back, and
Which is funny because he's such a sweetheart. I can't,
Right,
I
yeah.
can't picture him like
that's
that.
so funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I mean, I didn't know him until. I still don't know him, but just meeting him, and he's like the
Yeah.
nicest guy. And then he's doing
Intense.
the like Charles Barkley chuck an elbow when you grab a rebound. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it was.
In
Yeah.
a charity game.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's,
kinda intense.
I'd say those three probably the
Standouts.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're all right. Yeah.
Keep it real, man. Who's the? And I think I have an answer for this. 'Cause I saw that game. Unless you've seen somebody worse, but who's the worst?
Oh man.
You call him out first, Sean. Don't put him
Look,
on the hot
and
seat.
I don't know. I don't look, but and he's an amazing comedian. He's a legendary comedian. But oh God, Jesus, Jim Jeffries.
Oh, Jim
Oh,
Jeffries.
He was horrible. He was like ridiculous. Like,
well, yeah.
but he was out there, and
He-
it looked like he was taking it serious. He wasn't being comedically bad. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
he was bad. Like he was like shooting with. He had one hand in front of the ball. Like you know what I mean? Like on his release.
He shot like a mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
And would be like shocked. He was like, "What the hell? Like, what's going on?" When it was like air ball every
Yeah.
time.
And one of our mutual friends, Sean, Forrest Shaw. Is,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, he's good, but he just can't run. Like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
not
yeah,
The most
Forrest-
mobile. He's not the most mobile of.
I feel like if you leave him alone, like let him spot up and shoot it, he'd be
You're fine,
good.
right.
But yeah, he's
But
he's,
doesn't he work with Jim Jeffries? Maybe it's in the
Yeah, you're
water.
right, actually.
I
Maybe
think
it's in
Jim
the
is
That's
rubbing
right.
off on his
That's
game.
right.
Man.
That's a good
I think-
point.
Forrest used to when he, back when he was a little more agile. I feel like he was.
Yeah.
He would do his thing, man. But maybe Jim's just got him out there, I
Yeah.
don't know, ruining his game. or
That's a
something.
that's a good point.
Did you
thing
play any sports? I know you're big into yoga. You're a yogi. You're a yoga instructor.
Mhm.
Did you do any sports growing up?
Yeah, I played basketball.
Oh, you played ball.
Yeah, I played basketball growing up, and
Yeah.
yeah. But I usually just help with the tournaments. But I'm gonna play in the next one. I think
Oh.
when we.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, her dad used to call her Charles Oakley, so we got some.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, dirty, huh?
He would call me that when I yelled down the court. When I would go down the court.
Oh.
And that's what every 16-year-old girl wants to
Right.
call. The
Charles
big O.
Oak.
He's a large fellow, a large dude.
Very
he would-
mean too.
And he didn't even score that much. Like he was very good with rebounds, which
yeah.
is why
and
my dad called-
intimidation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was his.
Was that your
angle.
thing? Oh, you seen?
No, it was just
Oh.
the rebounds, and
Oh,
it was just my
okay.
dad. No one else said that, just my dad, very loudly.
Dena, but Dena, you should know. Like, first of all, Dena went to like an athletic school, so she's being a bit humble. She's
Word.
very good, yeah. But also, she's from Scarborough, which is I don't know how you would compare that to an American city. Like, it's
Country or like an
no,
Alabama type?
No,
Oh.
like ghetto.
Ghetto. Oh, hood.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
hell yeah.
hood, yeah.
Ah,
But people don't know that they exist in Canada. They think
Oh.
that we all live in.
we're learning now
Yeah.
with Drake and like.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's white trash everywhere.
Right,
Everywhere.
Right.
So-
Any kind of trash.
Yeah, so Dena's not afraid to throw down, is what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
she's
But I
not-
wasn't Charles Oakley level. I was never. Did do the intimidation thing. That was his
Yeah.
jam.
Okay.
Yeah. Elbows and.
I wouldn't want to
meanness.
find Dena in the post. I'll just say that.
Right. did you get in? Did you become a yogi to control like? Because you're so
Yes.
calm.
Yes, that's
You-
a good. I like that question. Yes, I did.
Yeah. Where were you at before yoga?
Well, I meditate a lot, and I used to get really, really bad road rage, but I used to, be very combative, very
Yeah.
angry, and
Yeah.
not now. Like as a meditation, it's helped a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm very committed to it. That's actually
Absolutely.
how Barry and I are dating. Happy to say that on the thing.
Hey, yeah.
It's out there
That's
now.
how-
I
It's
know.
out into the ethers.
I'm always careful with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
man. But
That's
Respect
very
that.
kind of you, Sean. But no, that's how
good.
we met. It was
Through
nice
yoga?
to meet. Yeah, no, well, it was nice to meet another comic who meditates. But yeah, he asked me to teach him yoga. It's a good
Ah.
move.
But it was and that was
Oh.
sincere, though. It was sincere. I was genuinely.
That's the only way it could have worked. I think she would have probably noticed immediately.
I
if
never.
you
Yeah.
just-
Have you, Alex, or either of you dated a comedian before?
When I was really young into comedy, I
Yeah.
like No, not fairly enough to say yes. No.
And you were like, that was it, and you were glad probably that it was early on.
This scene is very incestuous, so it's like
Right.
it's just better to not, you know what I
See,
mean?
that was my approach.
Yeah.
All
Right.
my entire comedy, ever since I was in, I was like, I'm not going anywhere near that.
Right,
And then
right,
this was the
right.
one time I
You did it right,
snapped.
man.
I guess, right.
You snapped
Right.
and murdered your husband.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
But have you, Sean? No. You have a lady now, but she's
No.
not a comedian.
Yeah, no, no, the person it was like she was starting out, but it was a long time ago, and she stopped doing it. So
Right.
I don't count. You got to be dedicated. I think that's why I broke up with her.
Yeah.
She broke up with comedy. She's not committed.
Yeah.
I date an actress now, so you get all the artist perks with none of like the nepotism.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
All
that's
right.
nice.
It's not
Are you
bad.
worried, man? What if she blows up? Will that bother you?
She's buying dinner, baby. Blow up.
Yeah,
do it.
take the perks.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
love it, man.
Don't sign a prenup.
Yeah,
Right.
no. She should have. She probably will have a much more financially viable future than I will.
Oh
Yeah.
man, no, that's a good thing. I feel like, and you guys obviously did. You just released an album through Comedy Records,
Yep.
right? So clearly, you guys would support each other, want each
Yeah,
other to
yeah,
do
yeah.
well.
That's
Yeah.
why she got. That's it. That was the.
Oh yeah, that was my move. You came
Yeah.
up to me. He came
I
up to
know.
me. I'd like
Yeah.
that to go into the ethers. That can
did.
go on.
Ah.
It's
record.
true. I did.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
have
yeah.
said before though.
It's a wonderful album. Yeah, Blue Lights, right?
Oh yeah, thank you,
Absolutely. Yeah.
thank you. It just came out. It was,
Yeah, she
like a
killed
month
it.
ago.
We recorded it in Toronto.
Yeah.
And it's so funny though. So we recorded it. This was back in June of 2019, and
Yeah.
it ended like we're leading up to the show, and it's she was at one point where she's like, I think there's too many people coming. I don't want to turn my friends away, and I was like, that's never a problem. Like, don't worry about too many people come to a comedy show.
Right.
And then it ended up just by like as the weeks went on, it ended up being game one of the Raptors Warriors finals.
The
Oh,
finals.
my gosh.
So it's still the room's still filled. Show was amazing and everything, but it was like terrifying day of.
The day
because
of, you just
my
have a panic
God.
because you know comedy. You
I
can't compete with
I
sports.
barely showed up to this show. You know what I mean? Like, this is my company and my girlfriend, and I was like, this is game one.
This
You know what I
is
mean?
Never
Like,
go to Kawhi's leaving.
right?
All
Yeah,
right.
we gotta.
you gotta get it in.
And now we saw a big picture outside of Ha Ha Comedy Club with
Ah.
Kawhi, the big poster, and I showed him, and Barry cried a little bit in that
Oh,
moment.
It's like the first billboard I see is him and Paul. Why? Why is this in my face?
Oh man, but I'm glad so everybody's there. Like, what would Barry? What would you say to a comic? Have you put out an album yet, Alex?
No, I have not.
What would
no.
you? What advice would you give to a comic thinking about putting out his album or his or her album? Like, what's something they should
I mean, just
think about?
always don't rush it. Obviously, like
Yeah.
wait until it's like you're honestly like wait a bit till you're like sick of your jokes. You know what I mean? You're like,
Right,
I just
right,
want to. I've got what I want out of these. I've got new material I want to start
Yeah.
touring with.
Yeah.
Let's put this to bed and like
Yeah.
sort of. It's kind of like the final step with material. I think
Yeah.
it's like all right, this stuff I like it. It's been great. Been doing it. Let's put it out for everyone to hear. It can have their own copy of. But I'm gonna move on.
So you're not into the Jerry Seinfeld model of because I feel like what did Jerry say about doing? He treats them like songs or something like because he'll pull out old
right
jokes.
yeah,
and-
no, that's.
I
Cool.
mean, of course, I mean
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Jerry, but you know.
Yeah. No, I definitely. I mean, mix it in for sure. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like sometimes we'll have comics they'll headline their first weekend at a club and be like, "Hey, I taped it. You want to put it out?" And I'm like, "Dude,
Right.
that's no. Go to another club first." Like,
Right, right.
Like
Yeah.
well, like take your time.
Yeah,
Because that's the thing is like we started 10 years ago. We're the only we started in basically Comedy Records because there was no label in Canada, and the whole
Right.
thing was I wanted to put out a compilation album with like me and 10 other guys, and then we went to like shop it to find any and there were no comedy labels in Canada, and there were like 2 or 3 in America. So I was like, oh, I'll just start one because I'm an idiot, you know
Right,
what I mean? And then.
Yeah.
But now, as we know, everyone's putting out comedy albums.
Right.
And there are a
fucking-
bunch of labels in Canada now. since
yeah,
that
and it's
happened.
like that's fine, that's great or whatever. But I guess it's just that that it's so easy to do now that everyone just thinks they can do it.
Right.
But just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Right?
Well,
So
you
it's
could
like-
you could buy crowd mics for $100
Exactly.
and set them, you know, in
Yeah.
a Zoom. You can
100%.
I
Yeah.
mean, it happens so easy. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I-
people just, yeah, sorry, but it's like they can record it and put it up on iTunes, and they're like, "Look, I
Yeah.
did it," and it's like, well, "Did you?" Like,
Right. I've
Um,
heard you share some crazy
I
stuff.
have a question for you. I've had this thought, and I feel like the Degenerates is that on Netflix kind of showed this recently. I feel like people are moving to like attention spans are just shrinking, and like,
Yep.
do you guys are you guys doing still longer albums, or do you feel like shorter content is? Because I feel like, I mean, even you got all these like 20-year comics doing 15, 20-minute specials on Netflix now instead of hours. Have you guys seen? Is that like that in Canada, or is it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always put out 20 to 30-minute EPs kind
Yeah.
of thing, and but we also do, you know, full length, like 45 to 60 minutes. And I think it's kind of I don't think there's anything wrong with that if it makes sense. Like if it's someone who's just starting to headline, but they're like, I would like to put out 20 minutes. Like, yeah, of course, you know. Or someone like Sean, we put out his album a couple years ago, and it's amazing. That's his headline set. You know what I mean? Like that's like a full album. That's like a
How long was yours, Sean?
Oh man, it was
45?
45.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
in that ballpark. Anyway, but it's
Yeah.
like that's like a proper comedy album to me, anyway. The way we look at it, kind of thing. But yeah, there's definitely people wanting to do sometimes like 15 minutes. I mean, we will sort of sway away from that if they have other stuff out already. If they're like, oh yeah, you know, I've got an album out, but I just want to put out this 15 minutes. Like, we would probably err on the other and be like, nah, we don't want to put that out because it's like then you're just gonna want to put out another one in a year.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? You know? So
Yeah.
Right.
but yeah, if it's someone newer that's coming up, then yeah, we're cool with that. But
Nice.
I agree, it is the attention span and
It kind of makes it harder to sell, like because you cut them into tracks and then you like you put it on XM or submit it to be on like the different channels on XM.
Streaming platforms.
So, yeah,
stuff,
so it's like I don't know. It seems like you'd have less options or something like that with like a 15-minute.
Does that does that work for as far as distribution? Is it like music where it's like there's a couple tracks that are like those are gonna be bangers and then the rest is just like get the out? Is it kind of like that, or
Yeah, the radio station or the stations choose.
do they
the ones they
typically
want.
play like? Is it typically like they play the same person's like just fire stuff over and over? Oh, okay, interesting.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. It is it's very much like music. Like
Yeah.
it's you submit the album and then they sort of pick and choose which material they think suits their channels, kind of thing. So,
Very cool.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's all right. But at the same time, then there's like stuff like Spotify where you can stream a whole album front to back kind of thing. So it does exist out there, but it is very much like a music
Absolutely
industry thing. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I would like to. What's the most? What is it, weird or not weird? Because I've heard some. What do you call it? Artsy type stuff. Like what's the most artsy album you've heard that's kind of popular? Like, what's some things that people are doing with comedy? Maybe that's kind of innovative as opposed to just doing a set. Which I like that. I like me just doing a set. You know what I mean? There's something. But that's just the time of comedy I came into. But I mean, I don't know. Are people doing? I heard a guy doing like a mixtape, like Jamar.
That doesn't surprise me. That's some
Yeah,
Jamar.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
very
Jamar did it. I thought it was cool. But I mean, it was like he had these weird music tracks that he blended in with a bit, and it was like
I haven't.
like.
I mean, he's always working on new stuff. I feel like he gets bored easy, like with his material. And I've never seen him do the same joke twice. He's just always going. So he seems like pushing the like I believe that. Yeah, I haven't heard.
I don't
it.
mean to just put it on
He
Jamar.
put it
but
out
I'm
an
sure.
album or.
Well, no, I was just wondering, like, yeah, he did, but I mean, like, is there more stuff like that? I listen to a person if I like them, but all the
Yeah.
guys I like are kind of like me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know what's out there. I
Yeah, how
don't
much
know.
exploration's like in that space? Just because like Drew Michael did like the soundstage thing, and it's. yeah.
Wait, what is that? What do you mean?
Oh, Drew Michael, he did a HBO special and not in front of a crowd. Like they
Oh,
recorded.
yeah, I heard about that. Like, it was produced by
Yeah.
Carmichael or
Yeah,
something. What the
yeah.
fuck? I don't know. What is it? What's going on, man?
Well,
What's
you
up?
You do sketch albums and then.
Oh, how does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sketch
Okay,
albums,
yeah.
I mean, that's fun because
But
that's like obviously it's not live, right? So it's like the Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
type
I've heard like
album.
Monty
Oh.
Python had
Exactly,
albums.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
With
that's
yeah,
lots of
that's right,
sound
yeah.
effects.
Like
Yeah.
that stuff's fun, a lot of fun to do. But yeah, there are a lot of comics that try and do something that's unique, and sometimes I don't know a lot. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you're just
Right.
like you're just
K-Trev
trying.
just put out that Christmas album though, and that's hilarious.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Who
mean,
did
yeah.
that? Who put that out?
K. Trevor Wilson.
K. Trevor Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what does that mean? That was all Christmas joke.
It's him. It's him
Yeah.
singing. It's
So he did.
What?
Yeah. There's,
Yeah, yeah.
There's,
Oh, my
he did
goodness.
Yeah.
Stand up. There's stand up where he talks about Christmas. We did sketches, and then we did like actual songs, like full band and everything. Too,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, it
That's
was all right.
fun, man.
Yeah, we were just in Universal Studios with him and his fiance yesterday. He's a
Yeah.
lovely guy.
Oh yeah, he's great, man. Yeah. You know what? And I guess I'm an old stickler or something, but I feel like when maybe it's wrong to like when it's a guy who you know can do it or does it on a certain level, then it's like, oh, it's fun when they do weird stuff.
Yeah,
But-
absolutely. Yeah.
If it's not the only content you're gonna get from them, for
Right.
A while. Yeah.
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 For
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. But I was
For
like,
sure.
maybe I'm biased or something because if I know somebody can do the thing, then I'm like, oh yeah, cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
it's like, was it Maria Bamford
Yeah.
did in front of her parents? We're
I
like, yeah,
love that.
but you're like
I
you're
love
Maria
that.
Bamford.
I
you know
love
what I mean?
that. Yeah. But then I'll hate when other people
Yeah,
do weird
exactly.
explorative stuff. I'm like, that's not stand up.
Because
Right.
you've
But-
built your trust with them.
That's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you know she can go on stage and destroy whenever she
Mhm.
wants. you know,
Yeah,
so it's
and
like,
she
yeah.
did that set. That was so genius to me because she actually did. She could have just showed the theater performance,
Right.
but she literally like instead showed the beginning, like running in front of her her mirror, then her husband and dog, and then a mic, and whatever. I
Yeah.
was like, that's cool, but maybe
I think it's I think you've got to be at that level to
You-
start making those kind of experiments. You know.
right? Why
But-
not? Yeah, because I feel like you built that trust, you deserve it.
Exactly,
I don't
yeah.
know,
Were
man.
you guys stateside for the Sketch Fest? Is that where you?
No, San Francisco.
Yeah, San
No,
Francisco.
we're just like work
Okay,
meetings down
cool.
here or whatever.
Yeah.
I was looking at just some of what they had going on, and I think it was for this one. Fred Armisen's doing just comedy for guitar players
Right.
now.
What?
Right.
And
That's
I'm a
cool.
guitar player, so I'm like fast. I wanna like I'm.
What does that mean?
He's like
It's all
writing.
jokes about the guitar.
Yeah, pretty much like jokes that if you don't play guitar, probably like the experience of a guitar, I'm sure there's probably something about string breakage or tuning or restringing or things like that where it's like it'll probably mean nothing to people who don't play guitar, but if you do. But what he did was
Dope,
at
alright.
Sketchfest he did like 3 different dates and he brought different famous guitarists for each one.
Oh,
You know,
that's
like
great.
to
Oh wow.
feature. And so yeah, I mean I feel like that's one of those things where you're like, what is
That's cool. I like
where
that.
Yeah.
it seems nichey or something, but then it's probably huge to people that it fits. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Especially if you introduce it as that. Like,
Yeah.
hey guys, like this is the thing about this, and
but
everybody
again,
goes,
he's also achieving on such a big level that you're like, all right, yeah, like
I'll go with you. on
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if he went to a club or something, and then he was like, "This is what this is,"
probably what like
people
a
be "Wait,
weekend in
what?"
Des Moines might lose
Right.
people, but like yeah.
But yeah, when you present the show as this, and then we
Yeah.
do that, then dope, man.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, I mean, and speaking of weird shows or bad shows, like, what's the worst show you've had in your experience, in your time doing stand up that you can remember?
I mean, there's just so many, Sean.
Word?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Well, you're great. I mean, but yeah, it was like, what is it, bad crowds? Or like,
I mean,
what
I've just
happened?
performed in some I don't know. Starting out, there's definitely some nightmare shows. They get better, obviously, as
Right,
you move
right,
along.
of course.
I had one lady. One time, I was performing at like an open mic. This was years ago, and she just started taking her top off while
Oh my
that
god,
was happening, and everyone else was looking at me because they were sitting in the audience, and then she was right in front of me, and I'm like, "What is happening here?"
Did you say it, or did you just keep doing it? You just power
I'm
through
trying to power through it, and I'm like, "I'm sorry. Can anyone else?" Like, it was a small room. It was very uncomfortable. People started. I started signaling to her, and then people noticed what was going on. But yeah, it was very strange. And she didn't She didn't really flinch. Like, it was an odd move. It was
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
That was her heckle, just to
Yeah, But you're the only one who can see it unless you really signal to it, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna come out of, gonna lose momentum, but that's fine. I mean, it was like I said, it was an open mic,
What
so
a
it wasn't
that's
like,
really the best heckle I've seen somebody get. So, yeah, because it's like
Yeah.
then the crowd's like, "What's wrong with that person?" You know,
yeah.
they're looking at you like, "What's What's wrong with you?
Well, she said she was an agent. Haven't heard from her since. I also heard that she does shows out of her basement. So again,
Ah.
not going to do those.
Oh my
I might check it out.
gosh.
Yeah, check
you
them
might
out.
check her out. Get her a deal. What about have you? What's some of your bad show experiences?
Oh,
there in
man.
your time?
I mean, there's and I've, heard other people, but one time I went to I was doing a show at a club, and right before we started, they come up like, oh, just so you guys know, this is a fundraiser. I'm like, all right. And they're like, and they're like, and it's for like a family whose son died 2 months ago from a drunk driver and shit. And you're just like, huh? And they're like, all right, take it. And you're like, all right. And it's like the most uncomfortable, horrible, scenario. And then they're like, go make them laugh.
All right.
But-
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people who don't work in entertainment don't understand that there are certain things that
Right.
really are best not said to a performer right before they go on.
Straight
know?
up. Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it phases. It never phases me because I just see it all the time. It's like, by the
Right.
way, like this happened. It's like, great. I would have done a much better job had you
Right.
not told me that.
Right.
And have this like darkness over my shoulders.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's.
What about you? What's your worst?
Oh, they've heard it before. I've been booed at the Apollo. I mean, that's pretty bad. Like,
Oh, yeah?
I got booed there. What's another bad one?
That's kind of got to feel cool later, though, right?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it really sucks in it. You
Yeah,
know
I
what
bet,
mean? Like,
yeah.
because you gotta leave through the crowd and everything. They're
It's set
so.
up to suck if you do bad. Right?
Oh
Like,
yeah. They make the people wait to
Mhm.
boo you again outside. They stand there and they
What?
wait. Yeah, they don't let you leave out the back door. There's a guy whose job it is. He guards the back door, and if you get booed, he won't let you through it. Like,
Oh,
so
man.
they can boo you again.
I want that job. So that's the best tour guide job ever.
Because he doesn't even get to see me get booed
No.
again. He's doing it for them.
Yeah.
Like,
He gets a phone call like, yeah, that guy sucked. And
All right.
he's so removed from
make
the whole
sure that
situation.
guy doesn't leave out the back door. Guard it with your life.
Like, nah, man. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Shows like that, though, 9 times out of 10, I really feel like the audience wants to boo, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you. Like,
Yeah, they're
it's like they're
waiting.
waiting to boo, and it's like you gotta screw that up for them to not boo. you know?
Mm. Right.
And then you're just like, oh, what are we
Yeah,
doing here? Like,
Rudy
what-
Rush, like he reminded them how to boo right before me because he was like, because
Cool.
the girl
He's
before
like, let's
me,
get this muscle ready.
Right.
You guys ready to boo?
Dude.
Like,
dude,
what?
the girl before me got booed because she sang Mary J. Blige, and she wasn't a comic. She just sang a song, and they didn't like her singing Mary J. Blige in Harlem, because she's from there or something. But anyway, then they booed, but he didn't appreciate. He was like, no. You
Yeah.
boo at the Apollo. You got to boo like this. And he told me. It's like, anyway, next week we got a comedian. And he brings me out. And he
Oh,
boo me.
Yeah, that's. I don't think that's a.
Oh,
I don't feel like
man.
that's a real. I don't think you genuinely got booed off stage.
They
you know
were
what I mean?
waiting. They
Yeah,
were really
it could
wanting
have been
to
anyone.
boo.
Oh yeah, but you couldn't have told me that at the time.
Oh,
You know
no,
what's so
exactly.
sad is that I thought like this. It was one of those moments like this is it. I'm gonna make it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
to go from that to that, it was like now it's like, oh yeah, dude. Even if you killed,
How
so
much
what?
time do you do? Or like what? How do
How much
they
time did I
put?
do?
Do they cut you off early if you're getting booed?
Oh
or-
yeah,
Yeah? How much time did you do?
I was. It was the longest 30 seconds of my life, but I started getting booed. I came out. I said, "Hey, how y'all doing?" I had the jokes about being broke. I was like 18, but I've been doing comedy for like maybe 8 months. So I was like, okay, I'm starting to get laughs. So I'm good. I'm ready for this. And I was like, anybody else broke? I'm broke. And some dude yells, "That dude killed my daddy." And he's like, "That nigga killed my daddy." And I was like, oh shit. And then I
Wow.
couldn't get a joke out. And like I was like, and they just started booing me. And I was like, do I just leave? I was waiting. They were like, no, wait. Like people were side stage because I had to wait for the Sandman because he
Oh
had
my
just
God.
finished dancing the other girl off.
He had to go brush
But he had to
off
do
his-
a
Yeah,
no. He had to
right.
get a new costume. He can't boo. He can't dance me off in the same thing he just danced the girl off. But he
the-
thought he
the
had more
Sandman
time.
had to earn his money that
Right.
night.
He was like, oh man, it blew it. So he had to put on a police. He put on a police woman's uniform and it came out and tap
my
danced me
God.
off with his baton and
It's
with
funny.
his billy stick. But yeah, that was pretty bad. But you know, they happen I'm always ready to get not to get booed, but to bomb or
I love
Yeah.
that at Mo Better Mondays they kind of have that or Monday race now. There's kind of that element, but every now and then Like
Is there a
if-
boo there at the?
there's not
in
a
LA?
there's not a boo, but if you don't do like if you approach D-Ray for a spot and he gives you one and it doesn't go well, he'll come up and he'll be like, "Well, guys, sometimes
Oh, yeah.
it's a lemon, and then he'll do like 5 minutes about how bad you were,
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And it's
yeah,
like
That's worse.
and because
Yeah.
he's got to get the crowd back and
Right.
it's being honest, and but it's like that's I kind of
Oof.
like it's very Kill Tony. I feel like it's almost like a rite of passage, like
Right.
Mhm.
get shit on a little.
Oh
so,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean that's happened. I got Bruce do that to me. Is there other
Oh.
crowds in Toronto? Do they boo at all? Or?
Yeah, there's some.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's some like.
Word.
well,
Canadians?
Yeah,
I've
there's a
never-
couple.
I mean, there was like Nubian Night is very
Nubian
similar
Night's the
to like
one-
the Apollo.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
that they do boo.
That's
Oh,
what I
right.
thought. And
But-
then also Mark Forward used to do a show.
Did
That
it?
was-
Yeah.
Yeah, I think where
I've never.
it wasn't encouraging a boo, but it was
I've n-
definitely
yeah.
speaking to if someone bombed.
I was
Yeah.
never
That's
booed off stage, but that wasn't because like I have bombed several times. You know what I mean? Like if people were into booing, I would have been booed, but it's
Right,
just
right,
it just
right.
hasn't been a thing.
Right.
I don't.
But I like that story about Prince, and that's what makes me feel good after a bomb. Is that Prince, like he used to open for the Rolling Stones when he was starting out, like
Oh,
in
word.
the '80s. He would open for them, and nobody knew who he was, and he would wear his Prince outfit, like he'd wear his like little bathing suit bottoms and like
Yeah.
a trench coat, and they booed him and they said all kinds of shit to him, and he just kept, and he was opening for them, so it wasn't like it was just a one-time thing, and he kept going back, and he
Yeah.
kept wearing that shit, and he kept doing his thing, and he kept doing it, and I like that story because he's not, a lot of people would have been like, you know what, I'm going to go buy some pants, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to conform, and I'm not doing that. Now,
What was he
obviously,
wearing? He was in underwear?
yeah, like a Speedo.
Oh.
Yeah, and like a trench coat in the 80s, right? Like, people were not as progressive as they are now, right?
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I see people wear that to the grocery store.
Yeah,
here.
no.
Yeah, here, especially in LA.
Yeah.
You guys are fancy here, but
Right.
Oh,
Is that what fancy is?
Yeah.
Right.
well, I don't know.
I
What's
mean,
the word?
I mean, here it's like with a Gucci bathrobe, and you're
Yeah.
like, you're wearing a bathrobe. And they're like, it's like a $7,000 bathrobe. You're like,
Yeah.
all right, that's fancy.
yeah, it is. It's bougie. It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I feel like it's
Like even just we
Well,
were
good
into
for
your
Prince
mall.
stuff, yeah.
You guys have an outside mall, like, but it's like the Westfield Mall. It's like beautiful. It's like
yeah.
I've never that wouldn't fly in Toronto because there'd be like 3 months that would last,
Yeah.
and the rest of the time would just be snowed in.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, we were just doing and where I met Dena was in Alaska. We
Oh
did
yeah,
some
you made
shows
me
out
laugh
for-
so hard in your outfit.
Oh
Sean.
yeah, I had everything on. Yeah,
but
it
you
was
bought
-40.
bought your coat. Remember you bought your coat and the arm popped, like the bubble, and you were like, "Oh, they sold me some bullshit."
Oh yeah, because it was making no. You said my jacket froze, or like
think
it,
so,
what-
yeah.
somebody was telling me like I didn't know that your jacket could freeze, but if you don't get a good North Face or something like that.
Well, because you got it here and you guys have nice weather here, so I get it.
Yeah, I don't own a coat, like an
Yeah.
actual something for warmth.
Yeah.
This is probably the warmest thing I own. Yeah.
It's
That's
just a little
nice.
I moved
sweater.
here from Denver, and once I started getting cold there, I lived there for like 9 months. And when I started getting really cold, I had a buddy in LA, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to LA
I'm
now."
out. So you've never experienced really cold weather.
I mean, I've experienced, but I don't have a
Ah.
jacket for it. Yeah.
Oh,
That's great.
gotcha.
Where are you from originally?
Vegas originally.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
we don't
yeah.
even own.
Right.
It gets cold at night, but that's about
Right.
it. Yeah.
Man, I've hold on, guys. Before I got like my last couple, I want to get you guys out of here, but I gotta ask these. All right, real quick. I always ask people, have you guys had any? And I imagine Bear being on the business side of it a lot too. Have you guys had any beefs in comedy? And I was wondering how you've handled them. I mean, you got to get a little some clickbait if we.
Yeah.
But to feel free not to. I feel like that's a trap question. If you don't want to say any names, a lot of people don't. But maybe the situation, because a lot of our audience is like young comics and stuff. So maybe ways not to be an asshole if you've encountered any.
How to navigate a situation.
How to
I think.
navigate a
Right.
situation where you might have tension. Maybe you
Yeah.
felt like you didn't handle it right, or maybe the other person didn't. But what's some a situation you can recall, or either one of you guys? Some beef.
Well, I mean, like I said, I got really into meditating and stuff, but I didn't do that when I started doing comedy. I was a lot
Ah.
angrier. So I think there's definitely some altercations I had when I started out.
Yeah.
Oh, word.
Just very confrontational. But that wasn't just in
You
comedy.
felt on your side. You were the confrontational
I was,
one.
yeah. And if I
Ah.
could go back, I would have done that differently. I think.
Yeah.
And I like that. Just don't take anything personally. If you can really not take it personally, it's really hard not to, because comedy.
I was gonna say, I mean, especially I don't want to, but as a female that's starting in a very male-dominated thing,
Mhm.
like, is it? It seems like a lot of dudes would say crazy stuff or try some.
Yeah, you have
you
to
know.
block a lot of people.
I notice that all the time when like a girl goes on stage that like people will heckle more and they'll because I work in clubs, so it's like you just see people get a little looser and it's like shit. That's just one more element you
Right,
have
right,
to deal
right.
with early on. Where you're like,
Yeah,
so-
it is hard, and it's if you're in a city, people are like more open. They want to hear your jokes. They want to hear what you're writing about. They're interested. But I find outside of a major city, it does change.
Right,
That
right,
it's more of a challenge, and yeah, it's an additional thing being a woman. It's really weird. It still feels like it's the '80s in most comedy
Right.
clubs I work in. It still feels like that. Yeah.
Man.
So yeah, I don't know. My advice would just be to try and not take things personally, and try to just have fun and be a nice person. Don't be
Right.
an asshole.
Right.
That's it. And I was an asshole when I started.
Oh,
but
you?
I'm not.
Wow.
I think
damn.
so. I'm
It's
not now.
I mean, it's
I don't think I am now.
Scarborough in her. She's our first. Just real quick, our first date, and one of the reasons I really was like, oh, this girl's amazing, is we her like she was staying in a place where she
This
lives.
was post meditation.
Yeah,
When was
yeah.
this?
Okay.
Our first date when.
Oh yeah.
So she's
Yeah.
her spot was like right down by the
Big advocate for meditation.
right, yeah, right down by the water in Toronto, and like we took a water taxi to Toronto Island, and when we
Yeah.
got there, because the water taxi guy was like, "Yo, go to the island, these bars," and we're like, "Oh," so we get there, the bars are closed, so we come back, but this guy charged us like I don't know, $50 or something for this water taxi, and she goes back and she tried to fight the water taxi guy.
Oh.
She's like, "Yo, what's up?" or whatever, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" And she did
He
like
was
that.
like 15 years old.
Yeah. So she's got some of that Scarborough, like leaning in, you know what I mean? Like pulling the earrings off and just being like,
what's
let's talk
happening,
about
bro?
this. And I was like, whoa.
But I'm not proud of that. That's not. And I think also
Yeah,
you just don't know how to
yeah.
navigate through comedy. It's not like anything else. It's a very interesting beast, and so
Yeah.
in anything in life, just treat people how you want to be treated. And
Absolutely.
honestly, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Barry, on the business, I had people come approach to you, be like, "Make my album, motherfucker! I'll beat the shit out of you."
Yeah.
Word.
Well, not like, I mean,
That's how I got mine done. I was like, that was my email. People got guns, man.
no.
No, but there's some crazy motherfuckers. out there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah. I would say the one story that I could tell is when the whole reason that I started Comedy Records was because in Canada, there's very few opportunities and very few people to work with. And so while I was in radio, I was working evenings during weekends. So I couldn't really do open mics, obviously, or you know what I mean? Or during the week, too. I was doing evenings anyway. So Mark Breslin runs Yuck Yucks Comedy in Canada, and he's this guy that,
That's
whatever.
like one of the biggest clubs. There's mainly two.
It's a
in
chain
Canada,
of color.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm a friend of mine was a comic there, and he's like, "Listen, man, you're on the radio. Why don't you message Breslin and say I'll promote your shows on the radio
Yeah.
if you let me do like a guest spot on a show." So I did that, and long story short, Mark Breslin starts screaming at me, like
What?
Screaming, like
Yeah.
screaming. He's like, "Who the fuck do you think you are? You can come and do my clubs?" And I was just like, "Dude, sorry, man." Like I was like, "I'm just I don't know." And he's just like, "Go fuck yourself. You can't do that." So I was just-
Jesus.
yeah, like it was insane.
I've heard more about this. I've never met this guy, but this is the second time on this
Dude,
show.
So so I was like,
yeah.
cool, man. I was like, I'm just gonna go. Like I'm not gonna talk to you. Why are you screaming at me? So then I was
Oh my
like, all right,
God.
well, I was like, I gotta start my own thing. Like, 'cause I was like, I need something.
And then you're like, cool. Would you like to buy some ad space?
I know exactly. So that was like, I guess the one beef or whatever that just, and it started everything. I was like, I need something, and that was the intention with Comedy Records. Like, dude, I didn't know anything about this sound exchange stuff. I didn't know until like 4 years into the label
Yeah.
about like streaming royalties and all that. It was more
Yeah.
like building a brand where you could build comedy around, and
Right,
do
right,
live
right.
shows and that. And that was that started everything. So in hindsight, it was great. But
Yeah.
I would just say, because there are like, and I really have to pull myself back, is like Dena said, not taking stuff personal, because there is a lot of bullshit, and it's like, I found always, it sounds lame or whatever, but it's like, if you always take the high road, it always works out for you.
Oh,
I
yeah.
swear to God, man, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, even if the person's wrong, like even if they're in the wrong and they're being assholes, you just take the high road, it always works out. I don't know why. I guess it's a universe thing or something,
Cooler
but
heads
straight
prevail.
up.
Yeah.
it's honestly true, man. I've been screwed over by business people, comedians in the past, and I'm always
Yeah.
like, all right, man, we're just gonna stop working together. Best of luck, take care, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it always,
And then they always come back.
yeah, the majority of them do, yeah. But
I
it's like-
imagine having one
yeah.
of the only opportunities too. People start to treat you like a gatekeeper, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, "I'm not doing this to keep you out. I'm doing this to promote people I
100%
love."
exactly,
You know?
yeah.
People
Exactly.
people want to take your protection of your business personally.
Exactly.
And you're like,
yeah.
"No, I'm not
Right.
I'm not trying to keep anyone out. I'm just not bringing you in." And it's-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so for instance, we have a monthly show in New York, at New York Comedy Club, and it's like we reserve that for people that we work with, like with
Mhm.
albums and that. And people are like,
Right.
"Oh, you won't put me on the show because I don't have an album with you." And I'm just like, "No, man."
Yeah,
And like,
kinda. That's how business works.
Okay.
but I'm like, also, I'm like, it's more like I want to give the people we're working with the opportunity. Like,
Right,
why?
right,
Like Sean,
right.
for instance, or Dena, like we work together. Like, if you guys asked me for a spot on the show, and I was like, "No, I'm giving it to this dude who's got his album out with whoever else," wouldn't you be like, "Why the fuck? Why are we working with this guy?" You know what I mean? Like, what? So it's like providing the opportunities with the people you're already working with, as opposed to
Yeah,
others kind of thing.
absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense, man. I mean, people don't see. You got to figure out why it makes sense for the other person too.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's-
exactly.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah,
'Cause we're very-
comedians don't do that well. a lot
Like,
of the time.
yeah, and we're very grateful to work with the people we work with, and we
Yeah.
want people to want to work with us, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole point. We want, like, if
Yeah.
we're working with either of you guys or whoever, we want
Yeah.
you guys to be like, oh, when I do my next album, I want to stay with these people. Like, I
Yeah.
want to continue to work with them because they
Well, and you have a vested interest in someone's growth, so giving
Exactly.
them spots is like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Right.
I want to give you every opportunity you can to sharpen your sword because I'm gonna try to make money off that sword later, you know. And
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
yeah,
Right.
So it's-
it's
it,
nothing
it's just-
personal.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's benefiting everyone involved.
Yeah,
Nice.
man. And I wanted to ask you guys these last two questions. These are very important to me because, well, the first one's whatever, but this. All right, first one is in order. Who are your top five? And I feel like we've talked so much that it's like you can't prepare a bullshit now. It can't be your politically correct top five.
Right.
But who
No,
are your
that's
top
good.
five comics of all time? And it's because Paul, and actually Alex, you can participate too, because
Okay.
Paul, the guy who usually
Our
engineers,
normal engineer.
our normal engineer he has 101 comedians list, so this kind of helps him
Paul
out.
has 101. Wow.
101, yeah. I forget who the one was, but he had to add somebody because
Oh.
he forgot him. But I forgot her. I forget who it was. But either way, who are your top five, Dena, of all time? And then someone could be active, but yeah.
Okay, of all time.
Maybe Mount
Not
Rushmore
this
or
isn't in order, or this is. I don't know if I have the order.
No, don't
Just
worry about
saying
the
all.
order. Yeah, we'll just do
Okay.
the top five. if you got 'em.
Well, definitely Maria Bamford. We talked
Yeah.
about her. I love her. I could watch her anything that she does. Like I just think she's amazing.
Yeah.
Gina Yashere, she's
Oh, yeah.
amazing. Yeah, I opened for her before. She's hilarious. Who else? I loved Robin Williams growing up.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle, I would say.
Uh huh.
And we were talking just stand-ups.
It's always the toughest one, that last one, because they're the
Yeah.
one that's bumping everybody.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
it's gonna be tough. I don't know. I mean, I studied prior. I would say prior. Yeah, yeah.
All right,
Mhm.
great. Yeah. Who you got, Barry? Who's your top five?
Norm Macdonald,
Yeah.
Solid.
Greg Giraldo,
Mhm. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he was very funny.
I gotta say Bill Burr, just 'cause I think he's kind of at the top right now
Oh, yeah.
for me.
All right.
Shit. Patrice O'Neill
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Boom.
that's good.
and maybe also Maria Bamford, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
She's just such a killer. Like, she
Yeah.
just-
And I
I've
got-
never seen her not do well.
Oh,
basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's
So
just-
unique, you know.
Absolutely, and so comfortable in it. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I think that's really hard. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. And yeah, I'll get yours, Alex. Yeah. You know,
I keep it. Whenever I get this question, I keep it easy. I do one living legend, one dead, and one working his ass off right now. My living
Ah.
legend is Doug Stanhope.
okay.
Nice.
My dad is Patrice O'Neill, like still one of my favorites. And then working now, I just mentioned his soundstage special earlier, which I didn't love, but Drew Michael is my favorite comedian to watch for an hour right now. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's three.
That's my three.
Yeah,
Chappelle.
that's where it gets
Chappelle
hard.
gets honorable mention. Honestly,
Ah.
for Chappelle, I love what he's doing. I love that he's speaking to comedians so freely. He's not afraid to tell comedians how to behave and how to move about, you know, the
Okay.
spectrum of, you know, just how to be. I love Chappelle, you know. I'm sound at a club, so I got to see him turn that last hour from 3 to 1, and
Oh,
just his
nice.
process is amazing. And then, Deborah DiGiovanni. How about that? You guys
Hey.
are
Oh,
Canadian.
yeah.
I'm gonna throw Deb in
Yeah.
there.
great.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
She's I've never seen her do bad. I've never
Yeah.
seen her not just drop a bomb on a room and just, you know, hurt
Yeah.
people's stomachs. So yeah.
Heck yeah.
She's
I
awesome.
love it. Now,
Yeah.
and Alex kind of touched on it with one of his, but who would you guys say are three? Let's do five. Five comics who, you know, who you're like, this person's gonna be a household name at some point, and they could be even at the open mic level. Just somebody who you're like, dang, that person's got something, and I know once they figure that thing out or get this thing turned in, they'll be big. Like in your opinion, you know, just based on your eye test. Yeah, and then you know, I know it's Barry. It's gonna be some there's gonna be some people perk up now. Like, oh, you said,
Oh, yeah,
shit,
yeah.
you gotta make my album, man. But no, don't feel too much pressure with you
Yeah.
know. But
Well,
yeah,
we got a roster of 10 people, so now I gotta cut half of that out. I cut out Dena because she's here, so she knows.
Yeah, you can cut me
Yeah.
out. You don't need to see me.
But okay, Dena, you go first.
Yeah.
No, you go first. I went
Okay. Well,
first.
I would. I mean, K. Trevor Wilson's our dude that's doing well right now with his Letterkenny stuff, and he's
Yeah.
starting to blow up or like do very well in America.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be biased. I'm gonna pick guys that are on the label roster, but
Yeah.
I obviously wouldn't work them if I didn't believe in them. So, yeah, K. Trev, Nick Reynoldson,
Yeah.
Mark the Bonus,
Yeah.
Claire Belford, and Monty Scott.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, go to comedyrecords.ca because there's no chance anyone knows who
They're
any of
all
those people
Canadian.
are.
Yeah.
They're all
Yeah.
Canadians based in.
They're
Well, no,
great.
that's not true. Mark's out here in LA, and yeah,
Yeah.
everyone else I guess is in Toronto still.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, check them out. What about you? Some people that you think, you know,
Well, yeah, I definitely say
and
Nick.
you can
Re-
include yourself too. You know,
You
I would
know?
include you.
I
think
mean,
you're
Dena
great.
is going to.
Well,
I
yeah,
can't
all
say
that. Dena's gonna
that.
blow up. I mean, yeah, a lot of people.
I think
when
you're
they do
gonna
this-
blow up, Sean. I told
I
I
agree with
told
that.
Barry
I,
that.
I
Thank
agree.
you.
I
Thank
agree
you,
with
dude.
Look
that.
at him chime in so quick. Trying to take my fire.
But he's
I
al-
said that when I came back from Alaska, I was like, this guy, he's really good, and you have a very wonderful way about you because you're very kind and you're very, I don't know, you just have a really wonderful energy.
Oh, thank you, Dena.
Yeah.
Appreciate
You have an
you.
inclusive
Yeah.
energy, which is
Yeah.
rare.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
he does.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you really make everybody feel very comfortable. It's a
Ah.
it's a gift. That's a
Thank
gift.
And we
Oh,
just
come on,
really
guys.
quick, it was the way we started to work together, Sean, was because our mutual friend Mike
Oh,
Levine,
yeah.
who owns the comedy in Miami, he and Forrest Shaw,
Yeah.
we were like, hey, we're looking for some U.S. comics, and immediately they both suggested you.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're like, all right, and then we got your album. We're like, oh, so Mike recorded it and sent it to us. We're like,
Yeah.
oh shit, okay, yeah, we're good, we're good. This guy's gonna be good.
Thank
So,
you, man.
yeah, yeah.
Appreciate you
Yeah.
guys, man. Hey. And so we got you, maybe some.
So I put okay, I put you
Yeah.
on it, Sean,
Thank you.
and Nick Reynoldson, who Barry said
Yeah.
he's really great. Him and I are from the same hometown, so
Let's go.
he
Yeah.
is just amazing. I love watching him. He just placed second in our top comic competition in Canada. It's a big
Ooh.
deal where you win like $25,000.
Jeez.
Yeah,
He's been on Kevin Hart's LOL. So-
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
He's great. He's really,
Heck
really
yeah,
great. He's
man.
just he's a smaller guy and he just has so much energy. This lights up the whole room. It's really awesome
Yeah.
to watch him. So yeah, and then I mean obviously I'm biased. There's another guy, Hunter Collins. He's great.
Yeah.
He just did a sketch album with Comedy Records. I love watching him. It's
Yeah.
just the way he creates and stuff. All like these are also Canadian comics, but just so talented. Been in the game forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot of comedians who have settled here who are like Deborah DiGiovanni and others
Yeah.
who are really starting
There's
to
a
get it.
lot of
Nick
Canadian
Nemiroff,
talent here.
actually,
Yeah.
Nick
Yeah.
Nemiroff, he's just got here, but he did Conan last year. He's a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, him too. I don't know where I'm at 4, and yeah, K-Trab for sure.
Hey, Trap.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Well, look, yeah, because I love that quote because it gives, some shine to some people that, not that Chappelle needs any more of.
Yeah, people know his name.
We
Yeah.
all, yeah, I think it. But I love that, man. I love because that comedy has a great future, and so do you guys. So does Comedy Records. How do people stay in touch with you, Barry, or with Comedy Records in general?
Yeah, social media. Our
Yeah.
social media stuff's all Comedy Records, and then our
Yeah.
website's comedyrecords.ca.
Comedy
'Cause
Records.
it's,
CA.
Toronto thing, and comedyrecords.com is owned by someone who just has pictures of comedy records on it.
What?
So we could not get that 10 years ago. Still trying to get it.
Oh man, you jerk.
But
No,
.ca, because we do work a lot in New York and starting to in Los Angeles, but Toronto's home. So.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And it's at Action Jackson.
Yeah, at Action D Jack. So like
Action
like
DJ.
Action Jackson.
My
but then
bad.
D Jack JCK. Oh no,
J-A-C.
don't worry.
That's Instagram, and you got Twitter.
And Twitter's
stuff?
the same.
Ah.
And then my website is just my name .ca. So DENA Jackson.ca.
Heck yeah. All right. And I'm at Mr. Sean Grant on Instagram. And you guys can follow the at Comedy Pop Up on Instagram and Twitter. How do you stay with what's yours again, Alex?
Con.tv, CONN.tv, Instagram.
right.
I pretty much do everything through Instagram. It's
Nice.
easiest, Yep.
And what is Comedy Pop Up? Do they have anything in particular coming up next week?
I don't think we have any live shows coming up. You can catch anything. Yeah, you know, you can catch we do like YouTube videos of everything. So you go youtube.com/comedypopup.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. Yeah, we one thing that Nick does fantastically is his lineups are always fun. So if you get on go to our website comedypopuplA.com, get on the mailing list. You can usually get into our shows for like $5 if you're on the mailing list, free even sometimes.
Yeah.
And like I remember we did we had one I think it might have been Deb, Kyle Kinane and Andrew Santino on one lineup, and
Whoa.
tickets were like $5,
What?
and very few people came. But you know, I mean, his lineups, the people in this industry always, they mess with Nick and his show. So that's what I would say. Catch any of our upcoming shows; they're always great.
Absolutely. ComedyPopUpLA.com. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you,
Barry,
Sean.
Thanks for
Dena.
having us.
Thank you.
Of
for having
course,
us.
man.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you guys next time. Welcome to 2020. Peace.